The Hedgeless Horseman here. It's October the 3rd, 2024. First of all, thanks to the sponsors. Um, I have a new one which is Integra Resources. That one I wrote about recently. That's actually the pinned tweet. Really like this story. Top 5 story right now, I would say, in the hodl folios. Yeah, anyway. Uh, Metals held in. Seems to be quite some movement on the forex markets. Crypto is still not down to zero, so we know we have plenty of time to buy cheap stuff still, real stuff. I mean, like I discussed with someone yesterday, the bellwether I have for when to take profits on precious metals is basically when I mean most cryptos are at their intrinsic value, which is around zero. That doesn't mean that they can't go up with precious metals and real assets overall. I just think that when stuff gets really serious, or let's say we have you know, not a crash, but like an upward crash, meaning that everything just inflates, currencies just devalue. So I mean, everything is kind of going up. Even maybe crypto is going up in nominal terms. I simply think when the chips are down, let's say they do some kind of bread and woods thing. They do a monetary reset basically. Then I think a lot of crypto will lose most of their values, and I think the hard assets will retain basically the captured value in the aftermath. So that's how I see it, at least. Um, so basically, I can see crypto doing well with precious metals until basically it's game over. Then I really wouldn't want to be in crypto. I mean, what would the prices of some of these trading sardines be if you just made up a new currency and they just started trading? I mean, what would the anchor be? Everybody has an idea. It's like looking at charts and seeing how it has traded, but that's obviously nominal terms. I mean, there is nothing backing almost any of these cryptos. It's just historic charts, for example. I mean, it's just money flushing around. So what happens if you reset the actual money that's in the system? What happens to these trading sardines? I don't think it's going to be pretty. But that's me. I mean, and I've said this before. To me, it's just an unacceptable risk at a time like this, when I think one should be concerned with preservation of capital, not only return on capital. And I mean, I have physical metals as a hedge to my mining portfolio. I should actually have more. I should buy more physical metals. Um, but there's simply no contest the way I see it. I mean, Bitcoin has no margin of safety, no underlying value really. It's again a trading sardine, and yes, one could make the case that I mean it's a collector's item and that it costs energy to mine. Uh, but again, it's like it's not needed. There's nothing underpinning it. It's not like, let's say you own a cheap gold producer and it was throwing off 25% in free cash flow yield, or like 20% dividends. That's actually an underlying business where it's like, even if it's cheap, it doesn't really matter because you get 20% back in cash every year. Uh, so that undervaluation, uh, in a sense, doesn't matter if you're good with taking the cash flow. Anyway, um, that's that. Let's look at some news. Goliath closes final tranche of non-broker private placement for aggregate proceeds of $16,120,500, including several strategic cornerstone purchases acquiring shares. Um, So again, who participated? Crescat Capital, Double Down, Singapore-based global commodity group. This is the first time they're investing in Goliath. McEwen uh, participated for his third investment in Goliath, and Larry Childress, a new shareholder with a sizable initial investment in Goliath. Um, I mean, Larry Childress, as some might know, he was piling into fireweed metals. I think even before the Landins came in, really believed in that, and then to have Landin basically take a stab, then you have a quite a keen eye for what a valuable mining project could be. I mean, yes, I don't know exactly his background, so he might be quote lucky, but I mean, Crescat, a new fund, Rob McEwen, third participation, and Larry Childress. I mean, Occam's razor suggests this looks like a very good project, and this is smart money, putting money at risk, betting on more upside. Hard to complain, or to not like that. And of course, as people would say, it's like, oh, what about the dilution? Hey, I mean, they're gonna be putting out like 35,000 meters of assays, or they're drilling 35,000 meters, or up to 36 even, and this gets them to next year. So I mean, now when it's closed, then they can start actually putting out news again. So again, I've said this recently. I think Goliath, if I had to bet, I think their project is gonna look better than it does now after those 36,000 meters are out. Homerun Resources Inc. announces receipt of budgetary offer for Latin America's first dedicated solar glass manufacturing facility. Is pleased to announce its plans and receipt of a budgetary offer to build Latin America's first dedicated solar glass. I mean, this is just crazy. Like, Latin America's first dedicated solar glass manufacturing facility with a production capacity of 1,000 tons per day of low iron solar glass, and this is basically what they've been saying from day one, 1,000 tons per day. The company's now received a 173-page budgetary offer from Horn Glass Industries, a leading global supplier of state-of-the-art glass production plants. Key highlights of the proposed solar glass production facility include capex of euro 150 million. You can read the rest. Obviously, this must have been the works behind the scenes for some months now. Yeah, I mean, this is gradually becoming more real, let's say. The way I look at it, kind of, well, first of all, it's like Latin America's first solar glass manufacturing facility. That's kind of crazy. I mean, that's a whole continent, and they have no solar glass manufacturing facility. And we know what Brazil wants. They want to be the hub of the green revolution, I was gonna say. So is this, potentially quite strategic? I would think so, especially if they want to do a domestic market. And we saw recently the people involved in the photo op, pretty high ups in Bahia, and maybe it was even, well, CBPM, I think they're called. Anyway, politicians and stuff involved, like high profile people. Obviously, if you set out to become the green tech hub of the world, all of that, then you go out on a limb, and there's been, I think, like 60 billion is allocated to some initiative. I don't know the exact details, but like you're obviously sticking your neck out there, and it's rare to actually be in a position where it's like, hey, the politicians and and the country are on your side. They need this, or it's like, oh, or green utopia might be kind of resting on the fact that Homerun will be able to do this, or provide solar glass and all that. So talk about macro tailwinds. I mean, not only regional but global. So yeah, I mean, makes you wonder what else is going on behind the scenes that's not been announced yet. So this is basically getting realer and realer. I mean, it's not like, I mean, and I've talked about this. I mean, I did that video what was it, a few days ago, about how things are going on in the forum. I haven't seen that Oyo guy, for example, today, and that's typically what you kinda can expect. Um, and of course, they were piling on all the way to the, let's say, bottom, which I think it is, or was yesterday. Um, uh, yeah, basically repeating the same stuff, yada yada. And again, as I said back then, it's like there's nobody on the earth that's a really, let's say, successful investor that's going to spend his time trolling forums. So sure, they can be hired by I don't know who, or they do it uh, on their own dime. But that suggests something as well. It's like, I mean, in my opinion, it would be crazy to be. Well, I don't short any story. Especially, I don't understand why you would be shorting Homerun. Um, and maybe they weren't. I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think there's like some companies, there's some history. Let's say, oh, some guy dislikes some person in the company, or it's a competitor. I mean, you have really no idea who's putting in so much time and effort to spam a forum, basically. But so I mean, this is of course very nice to see. That's like, yep. I mean, the quiet period. It's not like, let's say, the bashers talk about a pipe dream. Let's say no, none of the news releases so far has supported that. So this is getting a bit more real. And again, the way I look at it is like, okay, 151 million capex mine. I mean, don't know, even though I know it's not a mine, but it's like, hey, in the junior space, most projects are like 300 million plus capex, and they typically, I don't know, have a 10-year mine life, and today gold would have good margins, for example. But I mean, imagine, okay, it's not like a commodity where it's like it's equal everywhere. Let's say, I mean, this would be again a strategic solar glass manufacturing facility because it's Latin America's first. Okay, if it costs 150 million to build, what could the actual value of it? Like, what's the value of the operation? And we know the last I heard, the Chinese were selling it for like $1,000 per ton, I guess, solar glass. 1,000 tons per day. Might have actually been. Was it 1,000 tons per day? Yeah. Anyway, could be some pretty huge revenues, and again, given that it's closer to one of the biggest end markets, you obviously have some room there compared to the Chinese, it might cost them $500 just to ship the stuff. Well, not, I don't know, maybe not $500, but I don't remember. I wrote my ideas in the piece I did on Homerun Resources. But the what I really like is like this is only one vertical. This is one part, the more obvious, let's say, part of the Homerun business, or their plan. So I mean, I think the solar glass production could be a company maker in itself. I mean, if this was up and running today, I don't know exactly how much money they would make, but probably a lot. Probably, yeah, that would make today's market cap look cheap. Obviously, there's a capex portion here, but again, this is probably not insurmountable. Given that, again, I mean, if you have a junior that's trading at 300 million, I'm talking about a gold developer, for example, and the capex is like 600 million, you could probably do that. Maybe not like super easy, but like half in equity, half in debt, for example. In this kind of environment, given that it seems that Brazil is very, very keen on seeing this go through, so they will probably have let's say, be able to get some very good loans. Because what's the alternative, or let's say, if Brazil really needs this, I mean, I was gonna say almost maybe more important that this happens than if the bank makes good money or some money on the actual loan. Yeah, I mean, I hope you get my point. I mean, there's no shortage of governments throwing a lot of money at projects for the green utopia, and we're talking big bucks, and some projects don't even make sense, but they still do it because again, it's like they want to be re-elected and all that. So if they've set a path, we're gonna do this. I mean, uh, politicians have a way of, or the state has a way of seeing stuff get done if it's in their best interest. So yeah, um, as I said before, or as I've said, yeah, as I've said before, it's like okay, further proof that they're chugging forward. Homerun is chugging forward. This is becoming more and more real, and this is I think potential company maker vertical in itself, and there's a bunch more verticals, and basically everything in between, all the nonsense you see in the forum. I don't really care about that. I mean, Homerun is a big position for me, and I didn't sell any on this rip, for example, because I mean, what were we ripping from? I mean, pretty low levels, I was gonna say. I mean, my base case is somewhere along, or yeah, the risk reward I see is kind of, you know, in 2 years I think it could be a, you know, $1 billion company. If not, you know, the worst case is obviously that I lose money. But I'd like to say that the upside is pretty substantial, uh, and it's the case is intact. That I very much think. And I'm not after 50% returns typically. Um, Hopefully, this is actually going to be a kind of diversified silica slash silicone slash whatever green supplier that I mean is hopefully going to grow for the next 5 years or something, and this is going to become a real business, and one day we might actually get dividends. I mean, that's the hope. If that happens, maybe we make a shit ton of money on Homerun gradually over the coming years. If it doesn't happen, I can, as always, you can only lose 100%. But to get a multi-bag or a 10-bagger, that doesn't happen overnight. I mean, maybe you get a, I don't know, two bagger in the next 6 months, and you know, 5-bagger in the next 12, and then it doubles from there. I don't know. I want pretty obvious risk reward bets, and given again the tailwinds that Homerun has. Uh, uh, yeah, and just their, you know, how good their news flow has been. Um, uh, yeah, basically that. I mean, it's one of the larger positions in the hodl folio simply because I think this is a fair shot of becoming the real deal, and if it becomes the real deal, maybe one day we'll get half the current market cap in dividends. You know, stuff like that. Quite exciting stuff, actually. If not, well, I'm gonna lose money on it, but then I'll have some other story, hopefully, that instead goes up 5 to 10x and covers this loss and more. Anyway, another very exciting news release. Inflection Resources provides drilling update from Phase 2 Duck Creek exploration program in New South Wales. So, I mean, we know that people have been, or it's like, I've been in this story since IPO, I think. I don't think I was in pre-IPO. Not 100% sure, but I've been in this since it started trading, basically. And this is one I've had the most patience with, I was gonna say. I have like sometimes, you know, reduced and upped my position depending on well, the opportunity sets out there. If you know this sold off big on no news, I you know probably bought some more. If it went up a lot on no news, or you know up 40% on no news, then I might have taken profit, stuff like that. But it's like I've always had a pretty, you know, pretty big position, especially for a pre-discovery play. I mean, I think this is my largest pre-discovery holding. Uh, because I just, yeah, I really like the risk reward. It kind of makes sense now. It's like, you know, things have I was gonna say gone. Well, people have been impatient, and I can understand that in a sense. That's like normal. But yeah, so we're gonna get to it. But it's like hole two, which seems to be the big smoker. Let's put it like that. So let's look at the summary highlights. Drilling has recommenced on the Phase 2 Duck Creek project following an 8-week hiatus to compile analytical results and model all data for improving vectoring of drill holes. Prior to the hiatus, 4 deep drill holes totaling 2,822 meters were completed. Drill holes 18, 19, and 20 were drilled to test ambient noise tomography ANT anomalies, and hole these 21 tests a separate large gravity anomaly. Hole 20 intersected the strongest hydrothermal alteration of all holes at Duck Creek in the New South Wales exploration program, with large intervals of intense pyrite mineralization associated with monsodiorite intrusion, which coincides with a velocity high in the ANT data. Hole 20, same hole, intersected significant magnetite alteration and veinlets, along with elevated arsenic geochemical values, over 40 ppm arsenic, which are considered highly significant by the company, as similar levels of anomalism are reported in close proximity to other alkalic porphyry systems in New South Wales and elsewhere. Several step-out holes in proximity to hole 20 are currently underway. Alistair Waddell, Inflection's president and CEO, states, "We are very excited by the intense hydrothermal alteration and sulfide mineralization intersected in drill hole 20, which is the most intense alteration of all drill holes completed in the entire New South Wales program to date." I mean, they're I mean, they have had phase 1 and phase 2 going for a while now, right? I mean, they have really quite a bit of holes, so it's like they're obviously emphasizing like that this really sticks out, because it's not like they haven't hit the alteration, but this seems to be by far the strongest, most intense alteration of all drill holes completed in the New South Wales program. And obviously that prompted Inflection and Anglo Gold to basically, after they got the data back and all that, to immediately step out around 20. It's like they're not stepping out right now around any of the other holes. So, I mean, obviously hole 20 seems to be a big deal, because that is like the immediate focus, and they're going right away. The intersection of altered monsodiorite intrusions in this hole, along with tourmaline and magnetite veinlets associated with highly anomalous arsenic values, is considered very encouraging, as these features are often found proximal to other alkalic porphyry systems in New South Wales. We look forward to completing the next round of phase 2 drill holes, which are currently stepping out from drill hole 20. They drilled some other stuff as well, and I'm not going to go through all of this. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. But okay, this is drill hole 20. And it's like somebody commented on in the forum, there's no hole that's like super close to it. I mean, from here to here, that's like a kilometer or something. And we know that I think hole 7 initially was the most promising. So it's like, okay, if you hit something here, you hit something here, which is better than anything else you drilled, and even further to the north outside of this claim, they hit or got very interesting. Well, they actually hit interesting stuff as well. Let's not forget, I mean, phase 1 is also ongoing, so it's like they're testing more targets. This news release is only about the phase 2 at Duck Creek, because Duck Creek is so far the only claim block or project within the greater project that so far has had gone to phase 2 in an accelerated way, and it looks like they were quite right to do so, given hole 20. Here's a lot of core. I mean, I don't know much, but I know that stuff looks good. I think this is, if I had to guess, potassic alteration, kinda. Don't quote me on that, but obviously, I mean, this team is some of the I mean, smartest guys in the business. So, I mean, they're obviously not necessarily, talking to retail as always, but for, I mean, AngloGold has seen it, but you know what I mean. This doesn't say too much to me, except that there looks to be a shit ton of alteration. I mean, this is really messed up rock. You have what appears to be crisscrossing veinlets, and it's like, I don't know, pounded rock, blebs of sulfides, pyrite, which comes from mineralized fluids. I don't know what this green stuff is. Yeah, highly pyritic. I think it's chlorite is I think that's the yellow stuff. The association of intense tourmaline alteration, magnetite veinlets is proximity to a porphyry source for hydrothermal fluids. Okay, this is where it gets very interesting, I was going to say. So this is a cross section. Actually, this goes, okay, going back on the note I just said. So, first, let's look in the form. Okay, here you have this cross section, okay? Look at the scale bar here. This is 500 meters. Apparently, why didn't I think about that? But so, okay, they're showing a cross section all the way from hole 2, hole 7, and I think hole 7 was the best one before. Yeah, this was or 17 might have been. No, 17 was real recent, I think. So before that, hole 7, I believe before this batch of results, I believe hole 7 was the best looking one. And you can see this where it's arsenic that they apparently are using as maybe the, biggest smoke detector, let's say, if they're close, given that they say that, hey, arsenic tends to show up around other Macquarie Arc porphyry deposits such as Cadia, the big one. So, and you can see on the readings, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, hole 2 here is like, okay, some pops and whistles, and it's like, okay, hole 7 here. There you actually, as you can see, I mean, this has a small pop here. It ended at 466, and here you have, oh yeah, I mean, here they have it, like inner propylitic alteration. So that's zonation. That's one zonation around a porphyry. Basically, a porphyry came up, altered the rock in kind of zonations or halos around it. So they were quite excited about this, and that's why, I mean, they went to phase 2 quite quickly. And now, I mean, according to this cross section, it looks like it's the inner propylitic alteration that goes all the way from here to here. And this is a 500 kilometer scale bar. So this is like 500, 1 kilometer, 1.5 kilometer. As we can see here. Okay, so it might be, yeah, closer to 1.5 kilometer or whatever. At least back to hole 7. So, I mean, isn't that quite interesting? I mean, it kind of looks like this is this. I'm not saying it is. Maybe they're not necessarily saying it is. But it kind of looks like this might be part of the same alteration. That's it. They're hitting the same kind of alteration halo, whatever it is that made this alteration halo, across 1.5 kilometers. And it's like they say here, it's like question mark, because they obviously haven't closed it off. So it's like, okay. Because when you look at some here, for example, I posted some, might actually stick with this. Okay, so this is from Alkane Resources. Open image in new tab. So this is the Alkane's Macquarie Arc porphyry model. Here you can see this classical pencil porphyry. Well, okay. I mean, here you have North Park's Cadia Ridgeway. So the North Parks doesn't seem to have, I don't know why, but it doesn't even seem to have, this green propylitic pyrite alteration halo. But still, I mean, look consider this propylitic, because they, as they mention in the news release, inner hematite bearing inner propylitic alteration. The whole for okay, inner. So they believe they hit the inner propylitic zone of a porphyry system. But I mean, look at the size of this inner propylitic alteration. And look at this. They don't have a scale bar, but I think this one has a... Well, okay, here you have Ridgeway and Cadia East. So the inner propylitic is this green one in Cadia East. And this is the one in red Ridgeway. Inner propylitic, which is this green stuff here. Okay. So they're hitting the zonation, inner propylitic. And I mean, as you can see, it's the potassic has the ore zones. They have some green and red, whatever you would call it. Let's say, open a new tab. You see this green and red. I'm not 100% sure if those are the ore zones. That's like 2 cutoff grades or whatever, grade shells. Still, I mean, typically you would expect it in the potassic core, which is surrounded by the inner propylitic and then outer propylitic. Okay, so the outer propylitic can be quite big. Inner propylitic, I mean, look at this. This is a 200-meter scale bar. Wherever you would measure the propylitic one around Cadia, Ridgeway, it's like 100 meters thick, unless, I mean, you have a cylinder and you take this over here, and maybe that's the case. I don't know. Maybe this is just a cap, whatever. But still, I mean, consider the friggin' scale of this. I mean, this is only still 400 meters or something. From edge to edge, if you actually were on top of it. I mean, this is up to 1.5 kilometers already. But then we have Cadia East. Okay, yeah, bigger type of system. Inner propylitic. Now we're talking beefy stuff. Cadia East is the behemoth. Cadia East is the one I think they're mining now. Ridgeway was very high grade, not extremely large. Cadia East is the big boy in the Cadia district. That's the one that's, I think it's the only one in production now or something. And they were producing, I think, 1 million ounces AU equivalent from Cadia East, from block caving. Here you have the same scale bar, like 500 meter. Okay, yes, here you can see a 500 meter. If we're talking like a cylinder, that would get to whatever diameter of like 1 kilometer. If you're like above it and not into potassic. So again, it's like, hey, I mean, I sent a message to a very good geo who knows the story, and I'm like, hey, Inflection, the Inflection news release was, quite exciting, and he's like, I think they're near to something very big. Because in my mind, I was like, okay, maybe we need to have a few of these. I mean, if we're talking pencil type porphyry system, I don't know if one of these North Park's porphyries, let's see if we see the here, for example. Okay, so here you have the mining license of North Park's, or I mean, a mining license, and you see some of these bodies. I mean, there's several, and that's what I wrote in the piece I did not too long ago on inflections. Like that, it shows extreme clustering, meaning where you find one, there should be more. I mean, if you drilled, if this was the discovery, I don't know which one was the discovery, within a radius of, I thought I put in another picture, maybe not. Okay, I don't know what the radius is here. Let's say 1 kilometer, whatever. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, extreme clustering. 1 second, I'm just going to respond to something. Extreme clustering. So you get my point. I mean, if they confirm that they have a mineralized porphyry here, it should not be the only one. And I mean, they have a shit ton of targets at that creek, so who knows where there might be more. But again, I mean, this kind of looks like, well, I don't know. I mean, is this just, as the geo I talked to, is this just one whopper of porphyry systems, like, you know, a Acadia East type thing, or are these hits, you know, coming off from where did I have it? Oh, okay, I didn't have it here. Or are these other hits coming from other porphyries around? These hits here, are they coming from the same system, or are they actually hitting the same, very same propylitic zonation shell of what 20 is just hit? That is what is absolutely fascinating. I mean, if I don't know if you can actually just kind of correlate the size of the alteration with, you know, the strength of the system, the magnitude of the whatever potential potassic ore body, but obviously Acadia East has a much larger inner propylitic zone than Ridgeway, and if this, as it kind of looks like, that I don't know. I mean, again, is this coming from the same system? Is there like a just one fat porphyry here that's like has its inner propylitic zone spreading out like a mushroom kinda, you know, upwelling or whatever? I don't know, but it sure is intriguing. I didn't really. I was gonna say. I mean, it didn't click until now. It's like, okay, then I get why it's like the geo was suggesting that this looks like it might simply be a very large system. Because I think, I mean, I mean, nature is not always easy. Who knows? Maybe it's been rotated. It's like, I mean, lying on the side, and it's not. I mean, take a pencil porphyry, but it's just lying on the side. Then you could perhaps have a whatever, a very large propylitic zone. Obviously, I mean, if Cadia Ridgeway was, yeah, I mean, turned over, let's say, and was lying flat, or is it just a? I mean, I don't think we can guarantee that it's going to be mineralized with economic grades or anything like that. But this inner propylitic alteration didn't fall out of the sky. Something created it. There was obviously a heat engine that made the rocks out here have, you know, get altered like that. So there should be somewhere there should be whatever caused these rocks to get cooked and mineralized with veins of magnetite, arsenic spreading out. All we know now is that there is a possibility that this is just a very large propylitic, inner propylitic zone, which appears to be maybe even, I mean, it feels weird saying it, but I mean, at face value, it looks like it could have a larger inner propylitic zone than Cadia East. And that would for sure be that's a multi-billion-dollar deposit. Okay, now I'm getting chills. And here you can see the same stuff, kind of. This is the slide from their presentation. This is the new Q4 presentation. Here you see propylitic, and that's this one here. The green here. So again, I don't know how you get this kind of a footprint that stretches for like 1.5 kilometers, because this sure as shit I don't think is Uh, 1.5 kilometers. Maybe again, maybe up here. Maybe if this is, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's down here or something. I really don't know. But now I'm starting to appreciate this even more. That there is a possibility that they just tagged into a mother, well, a whopper of a porphyry system, and that literally these holes spread across 1.5 kilometers might have tagged the very same propylitic alteration of one potentially absolutely massive intrusion. So yeah, I mean, now I'm starting to get why they're like immediately are stepping out from hole 20. Whew. Exciting stuff, I gotta say. I mean, I've been waiting for so long, and I know it's a process, and that was the whole idea. And I've laid out my case many times before. The bet was the only bet I could see provided the best risk reward, given how cheap Inflection has been, is that uh, playing one news release would be an absolute waste of time, especially given how the story is set up for AngloGold to do a phase 2, phase 1, and possible phase 2 over 300 kilometers of strike, 25 targets. The bet was the in my opinion great risk reward bet was uh, put in whatever you are okay with losing 50% of, because the company has a superb team with huge skin in the game, so they're gonna make something out of this anyway, because they have 100% owned projects as well, and obviously a lot of ideas and yada yada. I mean, they have more to risk. They have more reason not to see Inflection basically implode than anyone else out of us retail. But let's say 50% correction, absolutely that can happen all the time, especially if sentiment sours, or maybe 60, whatever. So that's the downside risk. The upside risk is that they make a discovery out of these this basically carpet bombing drilling campaign that on a land package that is 300 kilometers long. And if you look what's been found at the outcropping parts of these belts, I mean, balance of probabilities would suggest there should be, well, balance of probabilities would suggest there should be three maybe major porphyry systems on their ground. I mean, will they find it? Since they have sedimentary cover, that means that yes, it might be some places too deep or whatever. But that was the bet, because at that at this market cap, I mean, if they would find something of significance, let's see here. Let's do some simple math. I mean, Greatland Gold, for example, ran to $1.3 billion on their Javieron discovery, and that's basically an elongated, like this deposit, 400 meters below surface. Fittingly enough, this is like 400, let's say 370 meters under the surface. Well, actually, they're not in the ore body, so it might be even deeper down. But that's undercover as well. And Newcrest was the main operator. Greatland got 30% of that, I think, free carried to PFS. Newcrest spent hundreds of millions on that, and Greatland Gold got, I think, a free carry. And that's the beauty of Inflection's deal with AngloGold, because here, phase 4, completion of PFS, and the PFS has to be at least 2 million ounces AU or AUCU measured indicator resources, and see that 2 to 1% NSR royalty to Inflection. To do a PFS quality study on a buried porphyry, from people I've talked to, that could cost like 200 million or something. I mean, you have to drill it. You might need to do a ramp. I mean, infill drilling and all that. So that's a huge expense that AngloGold has to pay everything for. And obviously, if they find a whopper and you get free carry to a PFS stage, that's probably a project that they wouldn't bother with if it wasn't worth, a couple of billions at least. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but yeah. And then an NSR 1 to 2%, so it's not actually 75% that Inflection keeps. The 1 to 2% NSR is the equivalent of, like, I think it's rule of thumb 5% of the project per percent of NSR. So basically, in effect, Inflection would actually get 30 to 35% of whatever deposit or deposits they find in Duck Creek, within just the Duck Creek block. So yeah, I mean, let's think about it a bit. I mean, I wrote this when the market opens. Like, it literally opened up. This is obviously hands down the most, especially now that I got to think about it and look at the, piece together the alteration zones, for example. This is, we've never been this close to a potential discovery, obviously. The twist being that, okay, this sonation might suggest that it's a huge system. That's not 100% a guarantee, but again, if we just look at the, compare it to the propylitic footprint of, inner propylitic footprint of KDA East, well, it's at least on par with that. This is the 500 meter scale bar. This is a 500 meter scale bar, so this is like 600 meters, whatever. On this side is very slim. So yeah, that's all we know. Again, I'm trying to be not too hypey here, because I don't want anyone to bet the farm on Inflection and think that, well, if they hit, I'm gonna get a 20 bagger or more, and if that happens, I'm gonna get rich, because it's not been confirmed yet. But with that said, I think it's one of the most obvious risk-reward pre-discovery plays there is, because the market cap is friggin' 18.2 million CAD. What is priced in of finding and making a significant discovery anytime soon, within the next 5 years? There's, like, I don't know how little. I mean, let's do again a simple, like 18. Let's say, I mean, a project's got to be worth what, $1.5 billion at least. Or we can actually do it like this: $1.5 billion. Okay, I'm looking at millions here, and. Let's say Inflection would get to keep 0.3% of it, 30%, 450. Okay, 450, now it's 18.2 divided by 450. So there's a 4% chance priced in that they're gonna make a discovery worth 1.5 billion, let's say. And let's say that's one discovery worth 1.5 billion. And that's like, yeah, again, to make a single one. So when all is said and done, the market is kinda, I mean, it's not fully diluted, but still kinda pricing in that there's a 4% chance that they will find one $1.5 billion project. And that's barely a world-class project. I mean, it's a very good project, but but KDA is like 10 billion. KDA East is probably, I don't know, 7 billion. I don't know, but it's like, we're talking many billions. I mean, many people say that's the main reason why Newmont took over Newcrest, because of KDA, because it's copper and gold in Australia, New South Wales, prime jurisdiction. You get to keep it. It's a huge asset, super low cost, and all that. So that's the main breadwinner. That's multiple billions that's worth. So basically, what I'm saying is, like, there's absolutely no chance priced in of them. It's like maybe a chance in hell that they're gonna make one discovery. Absolutely no chance in hell priced in that. I mean, they might be onto a KDA East type of discovery. What the actual chance of success is, and now we're not just talking, well, let's stick with Duck Creek first. Okay, let's stick with, this area around hole 20 in Duck Creek, which is again just one project within the greater project. What are the chances that this is actually, that they're on the cusp of making a major discovery? I don't know. If it's 10%, Inflection is cheap as hell. If there's a 10% chance that they would find another KDI East here, I mean, we can just, okay, what should it be valued at in that case? Let's say KDI East is like $5 billion, and they would get to keep like 30%. That's 1,500. Now it's 18.2. 1,500. Yeah, it's a 1.2% chance of success priced in. So what I'm saying is, this is not this target or not any other target. It's not a slam dunk that Inflection is going to make get a company maker, $1 billion discovery. Inflection is going to go up 30 times or something. That is absolutely not a guarantee. But I can guarantee that it's way too cheap. I mean, case in point, the market opened up 3.5%. Which is basically a nothing burger. The stock went up 26.7. It's like 1/4. So it might have started at what, 14 million. It went up $4 million, which is supposed to reflect the risk-adjusted value. So I mean, what is that in terms of increased chance of success that got priced in if it went up $4 million? I mean, $4 million. I mean, that's nothing. So that's a joke in itself. I mean, when you see Anglo Gold and guys like this say, we think we're close to something, we're starting step out drilling immediately, and the chance of success, as is implied by a bump of 4 million, given what the kind of price they're looking for, what the market thought that, oh, they have a 2% higher chance of success now than before they even had this kind of hole. Yeah, right. Oh yeah, the Anglo Gold and these guys, they really jump out of bed. One second. They really jump out of bed for if they think there's a 5% chance of making a discovery here. Yeah, that's what keeps them up at night. Obviously, that's like ridiculous. I have a hard time figuring out what to say here, because again, a no-brainer, let's say a no-brainer buy, can be as the term suggests, a no-brainer buy. But a no-brainer buy is not the same as a guaranteed win. If you like pre-discovery stories, if you're okay with asset risk, if you like discoveries, I think Inflection is probably right now maybe the best story out there. For again, a diversified portfolio. So it's like if you have 20 early stage discovery stories, let's say you like copper or whatever, and Inflection is not one of them, if you know about this story, most people don't know about the story, that's another thing, then I think you're probably high on crack if you think that your other 20 stories are better than the risk reward in Inflection right now. That's what I'm saying. I have a position big enough in pretty much all portfolios that if this fails and all the other targets fails and the stock goes down 50%, my portfolio takes let's say a 2% hit. If this works, or if it really works, this position alone could obviously materially increase the Yeah, let's just think about. Okay, Javier, when it was hot, it peaked at 1.3 billion. Okay, 1.3 billion. Let's say we round it to 20. That's a 65 bagger. It makes sense. Javier, okay, 30%, 1.3 billion. For a time there, the market thought that they had something worth, let's say, 3.9 billion. It might have been too high, sure. It wasn't another Cadia East. Cadia East, no. But still, it's worth something, and was worth something, and a heck of a lot more than 20 million or 18.2. And they did not even have Acadia East type thing. So I have no, I don't know if the market doesn't get it, or they think like, oh, they're get 25%, and NSR's like, oh, that's not much. It's like, then you don't know the what these guys are after. Look at the resume of the people involved here. They're only after, look at this guy, for example. They're only after, as Alistair said many times, they're only after big targets. They don't care about small targets. They want to make big discoveries. There is certainly a non-zero chance that they might soon have made a very significant discovery. And I'm saying that the market is not pricing that in almost at all. And again, the fact that the market opened up 3.5% is, just goes to show. This sector is a joke, absolute joke. If one has some common sense and just can, accept the fact that the market has no idea what it's doing, especially at a time like this, there's no way you're not going to end up making money, because the bets out there are absolutely, it's unreal how good some of the bets are. Am I all in Inflection? Absolutely not. Again, what I'm saying is, because I don't want people to make mistakes that they regret, and mistakes can be, even if it's a no-brainer story, especially if it's high risk, high reward, that you go all in because the risk reward is so great. Which might be true, but if, let's say, there's an 80% chance of failure, you have to have 5 of those stories at the same position size to somewhat diversify enough that probably one at least will make it. And if the upside is large, in this case it's like 10, 20, 30, 40 bagger plus, that should pay for the other 4 that failed, especially if they just go down 50%, and then more than that. So if there were 100 different Inflection Resource type stories right now, I probably would put 1% in one of them, each of them, and have that as my portfolio, because I would have, I don't know, 2,500 targets. I know there's like 50 bagger potential of on every story. I would not need to be right very often for one to pay for 20, etc. And maybe I have 20 that work out. In that case, the portfolio would, I think, multi-bag, because I think 20 would actually make a significant discovery. That's what I'm saying. So I'm trying my hardest here to, at one hand, say that I think this is an absolute no-brainer risk-reward situation, and on the other hand, say that this is a high-risk, high-reward no-brainer, which means that you need to be diversified. If the best high-risk case is not one you should be all in. But if you have a collection of stories like this, and you have enough of them that you only need to be right 1 in 5, then these stories are, a story like Inflection, I think, is one of the absolute best in the entire space. So that's what I'm saying. I am absolutely super excited. I have not been this excited, obviously, about Inflection ever, because now actually there is the threat of a discovery happening within the next 2 months. I mean, yes, there was a threat of that happening before, but now it's more visible because now they believe they are in the inner propylitic zone of something that some believe could be a huge system. So now it's visible, the fact that, because obviously they could have, blind drilled whatever and just made a discovery. So that was always there, theoretically. Uh, but now it's more visible than ever, and that's why they're stepping out around this hole. So a discovery could happen in the next news release. I have no idea. There could be nothing there. I'm starting to think that there's probably something there. So yeah, a long rant, but again, what I'm saying is, because believe me, it's really easy, because I think this is such a great bet. It's really easy to just start arm waving, and again, people think that, well, it's pretty much a guarantee to get a 10 bagger, so I might as well put 50% of my portfolio in it. And then let's say, I mean, again, if there's a 20% chance that they're going to make a discovery on the par with North Park's Arcadia East, this is like grossly undervalued. But nobody knows the exact percentage. And if that was is the actual percentage, if God told us that, then that's still an 80% chance of this target not being the discovery, at least. So yeah, make of that what you wish, because like what should I say? Yeah, I mean, that's the balance, because I don't like seeing people lose money. At the same time, it's like I have to call it as I see it. And it's not like I haven't been burned before on discovery stories, but that's also, it's like every bet is unique in a sense. I mean, there's for sure people who have lost so much on discovery stories, pre-discovery stories especially. That's like, I don't deal with that stuff. And I've said I don't necessarily like pre-discovery stories. It's just that I think, and I've thought, that Inflection is one of the most unique, most compelling risk-reward stories out there in the pre-discovery phase. And right now, I think that the implications of this news release, what this news release suggests about the possible next 5 news releases, is worth a lot more than $4 million added to the market cap. That's what I'm saying. So probably the story has never been cheaper than now, basically, and that's why I added some today. So I don't know. I don't know if I want the shares to go up or down so I can buy more. I have not decided yet. And with that said, I mean, if we hit like 50 million pre-assays, I think I'm gonna take money off the table. But that's the risk reward I see. There's a chance they will absolutely miss and find nothing higher. There's a chance none of the targets will deliver, and from these levels I'll get a 50% haircut to my position, lose 50% of the position. There's also the chance that this might be the discovery we waited for, and there's also a chance that they're gonna make more discoveries, or this isn't a discovery but they make a discovery somewhere else. Again, when everything is said and done, they will either have made one or more discoveries or not. I know what the downside is. If they don't, let's say 50-60%, who cares, whatever, big, okay, but not 100%. 50-60% downside, upside potential 50 bagger. I mean up to that, you know what I mean. I mean, theoretically they can find 2K to east and the upside is like 100 bagger, but I hope you get my point. So yeah, don't invest money you cannot afford to lose. I am biased. I own Inflection. I own shares of all companies I mentioned. This is not investing advice. Assume I might buy or sell at any point in time without notice. Not a buy sell recommendation, etc., etc. Again, this is not a guaranteed win. I think it's almost a guarantee it's cheap. That's it. But I'm not. I mean, again, for a pre-discovery play, this is a large position for me. Can this position kill the portfolio? No, it's not that large. Could it materially enhance the portfolio returns in case this turns out to be a big discovery? Absolutely. It's big enough to really matter, really impact their portfolio if I, well, unless I sell it after, it goes up 100% after I discover and miss out on the, potential 10, 20, 30 bag or whatever. You get my point. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye bye.